Hello and welcome. This is Critical Discussions, episode 17, and 2023 year. And let's just get into it, and let's just start with some news that they're quite old at this point, but I wanted to cover them so we can move on into the future. Basically, one thing I didn't cover is that we all know about Google Maps, about Apple Maps, but in post-USSR, in Russia, in Belarus, in Ukraine, there was also very popular Yandex, and it is still a very popular company called Yandex, which makes its own search, which makes its own maps, transportation maps, so on and so forth, like routing and all of that kind of stuff. Basically, kind of a sort of like a alternative to Google for Russia, right? But now it's all been bought. Basically, now it's just a branch of like Russian propaganda, Russian state. So this is why this news is kind of interesting, just so you could kind of see and understand what's going on. So from Yandex Maps, Yandex, which now belongs to the state, I'm pretty sure, like basically completely, removes buildings that Russia destroyed in Mariupol. So, for example, if we take a look at Google Maps, at the same street, at the same address on Google Map you will see the buildings, and on Yandex Map there's going to be nothing, as if nothing existed there whatsoever. So just think about how egregious it is. This is like 1984 in real life happening right now. Russia, unjustifiably, absolutely, attacked Ukraine, completely obliterated the whole city, killed thousands and thousands of people, of civilians, first of all, destroyed the city, and now they are literally removing basically evidence of their crimes by completely removing from the digital records, at least in one side, like in one provider of news and maps, in this case Yandex, completely removing any evidence of that. Just think how crazy that is, what they're doing. This is I don't know, it feels to me quite insane and very evil, to be honest, but this is what they're doing. So I just wanted to talk about this, make a note that this happens. It happens right now, and it's despicable, it's disgusting, and this is also like why we should never have basically only one provider of anything, really, because we always need like alternatives, because otherwise one side can go insane, can go rogue, can go and do these crazy things that Russia is doing right now. Not only invading the country, but trying to actually like remove evidence of their crimes from digital records. And obviously, digital records is kind of everything now, because we all use it, obviously. We all use it, and obviously in digital form it's easier to preserve certain things, right? Like you can make backups, right? Like if one physical copy of like a book or whatever, some manuscript, burns in some fire, you're kind of fucked. It's lost to history. But in digital form, obviously you can preserve things like that. But this is other side of this digital age that we're living in, that literally, like, when 1984 was written, right? It was like what, in 49 or 48. I don't think Orwell understood just how literal his message will be. Will some at least governments will get, instead of like using it as a warning how not to do. It's used right now as like blueprint, basically, how to actually do heinous crimes, and how to get away with this, how to rewrite history and do all of that insane things. So I just wanted to point it out. Just basically, and then we're going to talk about it just in a few seconds. There are a lot of Westerners who believe in like stupid conspiracies, who believe in absolute trash and garbage, who don't believe their own government, which, like, okay, you know, you don't have to believe your own government. You should be staying, like, skeptical and whatnot. But the problem is that a lot of information to those people, or those people are getting from basically pro-Russian propagandist sources, from fucking garbage channels like Russia Today or shit ton of their, like, satellite productions and whatnot. And although it's good sometimes to have a different perspective from, like, different side, those things, like from Russia Today, from basically from anything that is associated with Kremlin, with Russia right now in 2020, it was a long time ago already, but especially now in 2022, 2023, you cannot trust a single word. You should be, I don't know, like, before you trust anything that comes from Russia, because it's all propaganda, and by anti-Western propaganda, first of all, and pro-Kremlin propaganda, second of all. Before you believe Russia, you should believe 100% your own government, which you shouldn't do, obviously. And by extension, you should never believe anything that comes from Russian sources, Russian propaganda, because there are good resources. And I think I'm going to maybe I'll make a stream, maybe I'll make a list of, like, actually good oppositionist, like, to the opposition, to the fucking Kremlin and the imperialistic garbage that Moscow and Putin's Russia basically represent right now. I will show you the list of resources that are actually with, like, decent information, where there are, like, good independent kind of journalists and thinking people work. Like, for example, this website, The Insider. I'm using almost exclusively Russian side of it, right? First of all, because it's easier and quicker for me to read, but also because in English, unfortunately, many of those resources aren't as full. But The Insider, for example, The Insider is one of those resources that in English, I think if they don't translate, like, 100% of their articles, they translate quite a lot of them. Another resource like that is the Moscow Times, but once again in Russian. That's why I'm going to be using Russian version more often, because unfortunately in English version there are a lot of things that aren't there. Like, for example, you could see, like, there are a couple news pieces that are translated from, like, 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago, but in Russian it's like 3 minutes, 15 minutes, 40 minutes, hour, and then basically more things are translated, more things are written in Russian on the Moscow Times than in English. That's why I'm going to be using Russian version a bit more. So anyway, okay, this was the main thing, that don't trust things that are coming from Russia. Don't trust Yandex maps. Don't trust Yandex, like, news and things like that. Don't use it just in general. But if you see that it is in any capacity basically associated with, like, Russia, just skip that information, or at least, like, with state affiliated Russia, right? Again, like I'm saying, there are several resources like Medusa, like Insider, the Moscow Times, that, like, BBC, Russian BBC, for example. There are certain things that are Deutsche Welle, for example, DV, that produce really good information. But again, you need to know how to get the information to realize, to understand that, okay, it is correct and good quality information. Okay. We've covered this one. Now, this one is a good one, good article. How children of Russian basically powerful elites. Well, I've talked about the word Siloviki, which means basically officials who are related to, like, power, not power, like, basically to agencies like FSB, KGB, something like it would be CIA, what else, in, like, NSA, things like that, which would be analogous, right, to USA. But police force, once again, things like that. In one word in Russian, which would be used almost always, is Siloviki. Sila means force, basically. So Siloviki is like forceful people, something like that. Anyway, So yeah, this article is in English, so I'm just gonna link it in the description. And this is just egregious thing, that daughters, wives of all these cunts who actually started this war, or not all of them, but a lot of them, are having good times on Bali, on Seychelles, Maldives, in Dubai, while once again their parents, their fathers, um, their husbands, whatever, started this war, while families are just chilling in some cool places on Greece, Italy. And I don't understand how they're still not banned, by the way, because all of these people, and I understand it's kind of not, perhaps not fair, and maybe it slightly kind of goes even against what I kind of think, that children shouldn't be responsible for crimes of their parents. But at the same time, there are different levels of crime. If you're a corrupt piece of shit and you are like stealing in one country and then sending your family into another, okay, this is one thing. But if you are actually starting a fucking war while your children or whatnot chilling on Bali or whatever, I think all of these families should be responsible, because I don't think like a lot of them said, oh, we like disagree with like our fathers did or whatever, we support Ukraine and so on and so forth. I don't think they've done it, to be honest. So I'm gonna link basically this article in the description so you can take a look, because once again it's in English, so easy to read. Obviously you don't need to use translator or anything like that. Okay, then the same kind of story with Lukashenko, with mustache fucking potato Führer from Belarus, that and again, published on 1st of December. It's kind of old news, but it's still relevant. The fact that the family of this fucking dictator just travels in EU, for example. Not all of it. I think some of the people actually banned. Lukashenko himself, I think, like his eldest son, maybe a couple more. Anyway, but they've spent, like people have spent money on traveling to EU and enjoying quite a good life, while in Belarus people are jailed for opposing this cunt and wishing for them to be gone. Yeah, also in English, so I'm gonna also link this article, worth reading, I think. Just how, like, not only how hypocritical they are, but also in a sense how lacking Europe still in terms of actually banning all of those people. I don't think it should be that hard. Like Navalny has his own like list of like Navalny team has his own list like with more than 6,000 names of people and families in Russia who are directly related to people who started the war, to all those corrupt pieces of shit. I'm pretty sure things like that exist for Belarus as well. So this is just like, I guess it's sort of not inability even, but like unwillingness of EU, of USA, and so on, or UK, so on and so forth, to actually do the job of banning all these pieces of shit. So if they as they do all the time on TV, in their like meetings, speeches, whatever, talk shit all the time on Europe, on America, on USA, on like UK, whatnot. Ban them all, and do not allow them to ever enter even like remotely close countries to those. Let them fucking stay in Belarus, in Russia. Let them rot where they think it's so fucking, or not they think, where they describe so amazing. Let them rot fucking here. So once again, I'm gonna link this article into description in the description on YouTube. Okay. Back to Mariupol for a second. Associated Press estimated about more than 10,000 graves, new graves, in Mariupol, which is insane. And this is probably not even the full amount, basically, of people who've been killed by Russia, and mostly civilians. More than 51,000 square meters of graves at the cemetery, compared to like before the invasion, basically, which is nothing else but like insane, just insane. So yeah, I hope everyone responsible for this, from Russian side, obviously, will either go to a criminal court and will spend the rest of their pathetic fucking lives in jail, or would be, I don't know, simply fucking executed on spot. I don't even care. Because this is just, and just the images of totally destroyed like cities of Bakhmut, Mariupol, doesn't fucking matter. Yeah, they're so heartbreaking. They're so fucking heartbreaking. You're looking at it. I'm looking at it anyway. And well, first of all, like I'm saying, like like my heart breaks to even look at those photos. I don't understand like how each and every Ukrainian survives right now. This is so. I just wish so much that this war will end as soon as it can. Like this year, this month, this, I don't know, like tomorrow, with execution of or no, not execution. I would rather prefer international fucking trial of Putin and of all of his fucking mafia who started this war, and of all Lukashenko and all his mafia who allowed Russia to use the territory of a fucking sovereign state as a ground, basically, for a second sort of flank, for a second side of that attack. This is so despicable. But yeah, I hope everybody who fucking responsible for this will be punished to the harshest degree. Okay, and this is what I mean by some people are brain dead in the West. Kim.com, pretty famous guy, what he did, like mega, and before mega upload, I don't whatever. Millionaire, probably billionaire, I don't fucking know. But to be that brain dead, this is insane. The US, EU, NATO are already at war with Russia. The question is, when will Russia start retaliating? How the fuck can you even type garbage like that? How the fuck can you even type garbage like that? Who is responsible for the Ukraine-Russia war? Russia? I mean, great that only 5% of people said Ukraine, but I mean, not great at all, but good that it's at least 5% absolutely brain dead people. But the fact that there is 42% out of almost 10,000 votes who actually said that US somehow is responsible for this. This is to me insane. Insane. And the guy nailed it. The fact that this isn't 90% Russia demonstrates how effective their propaganda efforts are. This is exactly what I was talking just a second ago. You should never, ever, ever, ever believe any Russian source of information, because it's not information, it's always propaganda and misinformation. And this guy nailed it. The fact that this is not 90+% shows that a lot of people, like, presumably, like, listen, you're wealthy, right? I don't think he needs to work a day in his life anymore. I don't think he does. Apparently, he just goes and fucks chicks, father of 6, gamer, artist, innovator. Like, you're a moron, first of all, if you are saying what you're saying, but also it shows how a person, me, for example, from a fucking shitty Belarus, was able to acquire better information than a fucking billionaire, or at least like multimillionaire, who has all the fucking time in his world to actually seek and acquire quality information. This just shows like how some fucking people, how moron they are, how much of a moron they are. And let's continue on this thing. Breaking, Twitter has locked ALX for 12 hours, blah, 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 for posting this. Americans, I wish we had leaders who put our country first. Congress supports a country who they promised to support in 1991. So they are actually sticking to their promises. And second of all, supporting a country who is at war unjustifiably. They're trying to defend their land. They're trying to survive. And morons like this ALX, I don't fucking know who this moron is. I have no fucking idea. Banned in 2020, freed by Elon Musk in 2022. Show tells a lot. Tells a lot. If he was banned, probably was. I don't give a fuck what he did. But the thing is that this really. While basically, where was it? Yeah. Morons again, absolute fucking morons. With 65 fucking thousand, Joe Rogan meets Ron Paul in podcast forum. Check it out. You love garbage, whatever. When I saw this photo, I knew American troops would be fighting on the ground in Ukraine next year. What a fucking brain dead thing to say. What a not even brain dead, retarded thing to say, because everything and everything that Ukraine is asking, please give us weapons, because we don't have weapons, and you promised to defend us, for fuck's sake. Back in 1991, when was it 1991? In 90s anyway, when we gave up our fucking nuclear arsenal, when we demilitarized to a large extent, destroyed and gave away to Russia like a lot of fighter jets, a lot of like heavy basically heavy equipment, so on and so forth. And when I see it, I see win for the fucking democracy. I see the win for freedom in this world. And morons, absolute brain dead morons, see Americans will be fighting. No, Americans will not be fighting, because Ukraine doesn't fucking need Americans there. Ukraine need tanks. They need fucking fighter jets. They need equipment. They have a lot of very skilled, very trained people, very well trained people. This is so fucking brain dead, and I'm so pissed at these people who just like who don't even understand what they're talking about. I intentionally avoid talking about this, but how does this whole Ukraine-Russia thing end? When I saw a photo, I knew American troops would be fighting on the ground. What a fucking stupid shit to say. All while on Russian fucking propaganda, when Zelenskyy was there, this cunt was saying basically, while Zelenskyy will be like on the road the next week, we should capture Kyiv. Yeah, as if it's so easy. This piece of garbage, by the way. I hope all this propagandist, what's her name? Fuck, I forgot her name. Doesn't even matter. I hope all of them will face fucking Hague Tribunal trials for inciting violence for all of these fucking atrocious things. I really hope so. Alongside with all the Putins and all the fucking Shoigus and all the other cunts of the world. But it's so despicable that some people don't think it as a win for American, for actually displaying how powerful the country is, that they will support the country, that they will honor their agreement. No. Some of them are saying, wow, Congress is supporting Ukraine. So bad. Fucking insane. Okay. We're gonna move to the next one. These people, they just don't get it. Like, they don't want to see the information. Again, if it comes from, like, if their shit is coming from basically propagandist Russian resources, that, yeah, okay, they're not gonna see real truth of this war, real horrors of this war. But if you remember, long time ago at this point, there was a massacre in Bucha, in Ukraine, and it was basically at the beginning of the war when Russia was basically retreating after not capturing Kyiv, obviously, and they basically massacred a lot of people in Bucha, in like small town basically around next to Kyiv. And now most of those more monsters, I can't say animals, no, and they're not morons, they're monsters, they're despicable pieces of garbage. Yeah, that's a better definition. Despicable pieces of garbage. They've been identified. They've been identified, those who were responsible basically for killing those people. Um, and once again, although this information is in Russian, that investigation was done by the New York Times. There is a great big video about it, and I'm just gonna put a link into this video. Yeah, because it matters. Because it matters, and because the more people will see it, the more people will perhaps understand. And it's kind of sad that it's only 500, not even 600k views has got in 2 weeks. I mean, I understand it's an age restricted video, so YouTube will never promote it and so on and so forth. But it's kind of sad that only less than 600 people actually decided to take a look at it. I mean, if you already understand that, yeah, it's Russians who are responsible for this, I guess, yeah, you don't have to watch it. But yeah, maybe if you have, like, I don't know, in your family or in your friends or acquaintances sort of group, some morons who still believe like Russia is fighting some sort of justified war, I will leave a link to this video, so maybe you can show it to the people who don't understand what's going on, really, who are fucking Kim.coms of the world. Okay. I just read some article basically about how what went to shit basically in Russia in 2020. A lot of things, obviously. Let's not even concentrate on this. And yeah, this one I wanted to basically, I was thinking about doing the video at the very end of 2022, but then decided to skip it. I will put a link once again to this article, Euromaidan Press, about the events, basically 2022 in numbers and facts. I mean, 2022 in terms of this Russian war against Ukraine, what was happening basically, how it was going on, and it's in English, so it's pretty good that you can take a look at it. And this whole website is in English, so once again, pretty good sort of resource if you want to catch up on what's going on with the war, because they're publishing a lot of basically information, a lot of like concise information, and from different resources, who said what was done, who promised and who delivered, which like ammunitions perhaps, equipment, and so on and so forth. So this is a very kind of helpful resource, Euromaidan Press, news and views from Ukraine, as you can see. Yeah, I'll put a link into the description. You can check it yourself. Okay. And now I would like to actually spend a little bit of time on Belarus, because obviously this is a country where I'm from, where I am still, unfortunately. And this is, once again, I will repeat, why I'm not doing kind of a video version of this, why I'm not doing more kind of, once again, on-camera stuff, or none actually, because I am afraid for my own life, because in Belarus there are absolutely harshest fucking laws. There is still capital punishment, so death punishment for several things. There are ginormous criminal, basically, sentences for like anti-governmental kind of positions, 8 years, 10 years, fucking 20 years, or capital punishments, and so on and so forth. And I'm pretty sure with all these videos, with all these podcasts that I've done, with all the information I shared, and especially my opinions that I've shared, I'm pretty sure I've already like sentenced myself to don't know fucking how much, but definitely not for just a not just for a cash fine, that's for sure. So anyway, by the way, this website is banned in Belarus, and I cannot open it because there is only one basically internet provider in the whole country that connects the country to the external world. So all the traffic that goes into the country or outside the country will have to go through that like state-owned provider, and so they can ban anything on like a top level. And sure, like proxy websites, VPNs can work, but if they really want, they can actually disconnect the whole country from the internet, like they've done, or at least like they've done to a big degree during 2020, in August of 2020, especially on 9th of August and several days later, when Belarus held so-called presidential elections, which turned out to be absolute fucking farce and showed that there is no hope for this country anymore. And it's gonna have to burn in flames, unfortunately, because this cunt, fucking mustache potato fur, he was stupid enough to not allow any basically semblance of like change of power and new presidents and whatnot. So he decided he will be Tsar of this land forever. Anyway, so that fucking potato fur called Lukashenko, right? He signed a decree, basically about stripping citizenship of opposition figures who have basically immigrated or fled basically to another countries. And I don't think, like, I'm pretty sure in Constitution, I'm pretty sure in Constitution it's forbidden to strip away citizenship. But who cares about Constitution in this fucking country? Nobody really. Anyway, so that law was signed in secrecy, basically. And now basically people who have been participating in extremist activity, or basically like I don't even understand like harsh, like what? Severe harm. I don't even understand how you can severely like harm the government. I don't even get like how the fuck that should work. Like what the fuck is severe harm or to the government, and who are basically right now are out of the country. Now they can be stripped away of their citizenship by like a court decree, basically, which is obviously the courts are non-existent, like independent courts are non-existent. And so it's basically like if you you've been participating in this like so-called extremist activity, which was basically like protesting against this fucking regime, if you are still inside of the country, you are most likely in jail. If you are outside the country, now they can strip away your citizenship. Which, I mean, if you are already outside the country, I don't think you should give a fuck about this stupid passport, to be honest, which is one of the worst passports in the world in terms of like freedom of movement. So it doesn't give you anything, to be honest. So if they strip away this shit, like who gives a fuck, to be honest? If I would be outside of the country and this stupid fucking shithole of regime stripped away of this stupid passport, I would be happy, to be honest. So yeah, who gives a fuck? But yeah, they've done it, basically, which is interesting. And there are more news about it as well. 1 second. The other law that kind of goes hand in hand with the first one is basically about stripping away of property of Belarusian people. Once again, it's been signed basically in secrecy, and it's basically somewhat at least similar to something that Russia has done or is doing, that basically the government can strip away you of your property or take away your property if it deems it necessary, basically. So it's not even about people It's not even about like people so much as about companies as well. So once again, it's something similar to what Russia is doing, right? Like for example, some company, let's say like McDonald's, is saying like fuck that shit. We're not gonna participate in Russian economy anymore. We don't care about the fucking market. We're not gonna support them. So they're exiting the market. And then Russian government comes and says, well, okay, fuck you. We're going to expropriate your property. We're going to expropriate, buildings that you've built, all the equipment inside of it, and so on and so forth, right? So this is basically something similar to that. That once companies are exiting Belarus as well, or those companies that exit in Belarus as well, and those companies that cannot, for example, take their property. You can't take really, but like equipment, so on and so forth. If they leave it basically in Belarus, Belarus sort of comes in and says, well, in the national interests, we're gonna expropriate it and we'll nationalize it and basically make it ours. I don't understand really, but like I'm obviously thinking differently. But I don't understand how you can be so brain dead to not see how this will absolutely fucking cripple not only your economy. Well, yeah, first of all, it will absolutely fucking cripple your economy, but will plummet your country into absolute abyss in just like 3 to 5 years. Because if this regime of this fucking potato fur will continue, and if regime of Putin will continue as well, none of big businesses will do actual work with these countries, will do business with this country. None of the large companies who are producing amazing things, be it whatever, airplanes or cars or technology or even freaking machinery to build like factories and so on and so forth. Once those companies say, well, go fuck yourself, basically, what the fuck do you think you're gonna do? You're a shithole fucking dictator in a small country, and another fucking shithole dictator in a big country just started a war and basically cut himself. Not even, he didn't shoot himself in one foot. He took a fucking chainsaw and cut both of his feet on his own. And you was stupid enough to depend only on him because you loved power so much. You just couldn't relinquish your power and go into retirement. So yeah, that's basically it. They can take anything away from anybody or any kind of company, business that they deem kind of who's like working against the government or whatever. So basically, like, for example, this is one interesting example. After 2020 or even before that, I'm not quite sure what year it was, but Skoda, right? Skoda, the car brand, basically said we're not gonna support. I think it was some sort of like a hockey champ, because this cunt, the Lukashenko, he actually likes hockey a lot. He thinks he's a fucking genius hockeyist or whatever, and yeah, Skoda said like we're not gonna sponsor your fucking tournaments anymore because you're a fucking dictator and fuck you. I think probably it was after 2020. I'm not 100% sure. Let's say it was after 2020. And he is such a petty piece of shit. He doesn't care about people whatsoever. He's such a petty, with such a fucking fragile, stupid fucking ego that's just fragile. Like, he's just a small man. Not even man. A fucking piece of shit. That he banned Skoda from this country, from country of Belarus. The same happened with Nivea brand of cosmetics. They also basically said, they pulled off their advertisement and said, we're not going to advertise in your tournaments or whatever, we're not going to sponsor your garbage shit. Because, yeah, I mean, it's a little hypocritical that they haven't done it before, because it was already shown in 2010 that this cunt will never give up his power. And 10 years later, people still were, dealing with this fucking retarded country and so forth, so on and so forth. If you didn't realize, I hate this country, even though I'm from here and I unfortunately live here. But that's why I hate it so much, because I see how disgusting this place is. Anyway, he banned Nivea as well. Why I know it? Because I found my perfect deodorant, like the perfect one that fits me exactly well, and it's from Nivea, and I feel like the fucking universe is conspiring against me. Because once I found it, again, year or two later, boom, this shit, and then it's banned in Belarus. So stellar. Anyway, so there's that. So basically, now you can be stripped away of your citizenship, and you can be stripped away from all of your property if the government deems you a bad actor, essentially. Amazing, isn't it? That's just to say that this is just like for some of those Westerners who think their countries are pieces of shit and like some authoritarian, I don't know, dictatorship or whatever. How a lot of people were screaming when Trump was president. Like, people were literally fucking talking shit on Trump day in and day out on Twitter or other social media, on TV, everywhere. And in the end, even social media, it's not Trump who banned social media, it's social media who banned Trump. So it's like, wow, it's like literally the opposite of what dictatorship is. Which is, but by the way, I don't agree with those things either, of banning, especially working sitting president, which is insane. But that's by the by. I'm just saying that, like, Kim.com probably should listen to this critical discussion episode instead of reading whatever garbage he's, or whatever fucking sources he's got. Anyway, well, it's like a new news apparently. Yeah, once again, like Putin. I don't even want to talk about that garbage. Piece of shit. Okay. So one thing about Belarus, once again, there are a lot of like equipment, heavy sort of machinery, tanks, some BMPs, whatnot, are being apparently transferred right now to the territory, or right now stationed already on the territory of Belarus. And Belarus is basically right now is like training kind of a ground for a lot of Russian troops. I'm not sure if Russians are thinking that they will try to capture Kyiv again in, I don't know, probably like in February on like a 1 year anniversary or something like that. They will try to go second time. I think it's going to be absolutely insane if they will do it, because they're gonna get destroyed. Of course, they're gonna get destroyed. But also, what's more interesting is that so far, seemingly Ukraine has done like I think one attack on Belarus and on Belarusian soil, in terms of like, because there was, I forgot when was it. Maybe in August, September, I forgot when was it, when there's been like a couple explosions on like airfields in Gomeli region where a lot of like Russian troops are stationed. And I'm pretty sure Ukraine has done it. I'm not sure if, no, I don't think they're ever kind of admitted to this, but I think it's good. That they understand that in case they need to strike preemptively, essentially, on the territory of Belarus and destroy Russian forces and Russian equipment on the territory of Belarus before it even reaches or crosses the border with Russia, I don't think it's necessarily that bad. I don't think what it will entail, because that could be seen as essentially attack on Belarus, and then Lukashenko might like mobilize people and like put a what is it, like a not curfew, what is it called? Oh my god, I'm losing my mind. Martial law. I obviously, as a person who still lives here, of an age, who would be probably mobilized. I don't want that to happen. At the same time, I don't think he's brave enough to actually do this, because there are some people, even like officers in Belarusian army, who are saying that if this will happen, if the mobilization in Belarus will start and there will be like martial law in Belarus, even people in army right now saying that a lot of this, like you will not be able to force a person to fight against Ukrainians, and a person who is in army right now saying that most likely I feel like that mobilized Belarusians, after getting their weapons, will try to organize and basically become who this nation was in like World War II, or World War II, partisans. But this time they're going to be fighting against Russians, against Belarusian regime, and they're not going to be fighting against Ukraine. Unfortunately, I don't know how to really process this information, because I was talking to my best buddy some time ago, recently, and he was telling me that actually there are a lot of brain dead people in Belarus as well, whose brains are brainwashed by Russian propaganda, and he thinks that unfortunately probably like 30-40% could actually take guns and actually go to Ukraine. I don't think so, because I feel like, I mean, I've had the unpleasant experiences talking to elderly people who are completely brainwashed because they watch too much TV, and most of the TV is just brain-dead Russian propaganda. But younger people, especially younger, like below like 35, below 40, they're getting their news mostly from the internet, and I don't think they would ever take the guns and actually fight against Ukraine, because Ukraine is not an enemy. Belarusian regime is the enemy. Russian army, Russians, Kremlin is the enemy, not Ukraine. So yeah, it's kind of it's an interesting sort of dilemma, not even dilemma, but conundrum in a way. I'm just thinking like how it all can unfold, and yeah, I obviously don't want martial law in Belarus or anything like that, because the borders for this country are already fucking hard to exit. Basically, the borders are pretty strict in terms of in many terms, really. Martial law would not help whatsoever. Anyway, okay, so we've covered that. And now let's cover a few more topics, and then oh yeah, there was like a there was like a mobilization. How to even put it, like revisions, I don't know. Basically, Ministry of Defense. It's so fucking insane that they always say Ministry of Defense was sending notes to Belarusian people, or called the numbers of men of mobilization age, and they were basically asking, what they're doing, where they're working, how many family members they've got, so on and so forth. I was actually avoiding for quite a long time those calls. I was literally like numbers that I didn't know in my that weren't basically in my contact list. I just didn't pick up and immediately banned them, blocked them. But then I was doing it for so long, and several of my like acquaintances and so on and so forth got those calls, and those calls were basically like yeah, so hey, so you didn't need to go to mobilization office, to the draft office. It was all done by the phone, so I feel like it was mostly done like for like fuck, just fuck off basically, because a lot of things in Russia and Belarus are done like that. So just like fuck off. Basically, what they've asked is your like family status. Are you married, not married? Do you have children? How many? Because I think like if you have like 3 children, you have, imagine that, only if you have 3 children, then you have exemption basically, even if you are like over whatever 25, 28, 30 age, then you have an exemption of going essentially to war if there is like a martial law and it's a wartime. Only if you have 3 children. It doesn't even matter about your like diseases or whatnot, conditions. So that like, yeah, they asked like where do you work and so on and so forth. So anyway, long story short, I was avoiding it for so long then that actually I got the letter, look, not letter even, it's just like a fucking piece of paper. It's not even a letter, so it cannot be official really. Someone basically put some piece of fucking shit in my like in post box, and I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. So they actually visited the house where I'm kind of signed in my passport. Like assigned to, because in Belarus you have to be assigned in your passport to some location, and if you change the location, then you're gonna be assigned to like a different location in your passport. There will be a stamp which would say like where you like legally, sort of legally live, kind of a thing. And technically you kind of need to, if you move somewhere inside of Belarus, technically you need to re-register, kind of. It's like a lot of shit to control people. There is no such freedom as like there is, but kind of legally, kind of not really, where you can just pick up your ass and move anywhere, and then the government doesn't fucking cannot find you, doesn't know where you are, and so on and so forth. They're trying to avoid that. They're trying to control people as much as they can. So anyway, I was thinking a long time, like, what the fuck should I do? In the end, I decided I'm probably like bringing too much attention to myself by really avoiding it, because I'm living in a smaller city, not the giant one, but not the smallest one, in a smaller city. And I was thinking that probably I'm bringing a bit too much attention to myself. So I decided, okay, let me give them a call, because I'm definitely not going there. So I called them and I'm like, well, I found that shit. What the fuck do you want from me? Basically, without like swear words, but with that attitude. Some woman like fucking said, oh yeah, we didn't know how to find you, la la la. And I'm like, okay, well, cool. What do you want? And again, they just ask like these several questions. Where do you live? Or yeah, like, are you living where you assigned to, like in this passport thing? Or where you like, yeah, status of your relationships or whatnot, and blah blah. And then she's like, yeah, well, thank you, bye. So I'm pretty sure that was done. In Russian, there is this like not yibis. There is this concept of who gives a fuck, kind of doing things like who gives a fuck, whatever. Um, I feel like it's mostly done like that, to basically give some reports back to the higher up people. I don't know, like it definitely worried me, let's put it that way, because in that draft, on it's not draft notice, but in that notice that I've got, it was saying that it's like a yearly sort of recounting, we're just like updating our statistics, whatever. But I know that this is not yearly, because it's never happened before. Literally, in whatever, like 15 to whatever, 10, I don't know how many years, since I've got like this little piece of paper that says like I'm not going to serve or whatever. Yeah, it's happened for the very first time. So that is slightly worrying. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. The same thing, by the way, that happened in Russia with parallel import, or basically you are like on a governmental level, basically given okay to basically steal like intellectual property or just general property of other companies, basically pirate things. Um, it is basically done in Belarus as well. So what I mean, for example, when movie companies, right, theater companies, right, like the distributors exited Russian market and Belarusian market as well. So you can't watch anything legally in like movie theaters, for example. And so now, apparently, I mean, it was done in Russia already, and now apparently it's done in Belarus as well. Now those like theaters can like illegally download some whatever movies or whatever and just display them in the theaters, which is insane if you ask me, which once again just shows that these people are now living in one day. Basically, they're not thinking even a month or two in advance, even half a year, even 1 year in advance. They're just living in the now. They're just living in the now, because these blatant kind of disregard of intellectual property and wish of the companies and the businesses who are operating here and who said like, okay, we're not going to do it, and then the government comes and says like, well, you're not going to do it, we're going to do it ourselves, who gives a fuck, take your property, take your intellectual property, and we're going to use it anyway. It doesn't matter if you allow us to do this or not. This blatant disregard of intellectual property, like I'm saying, will just send this region, Belarus and in Russia, not like 10 years back. It will send it like 30 years back to USSR. This is what those old fucks in the government, in Russian and Belarusian government, they are from USSR. They still think USSR was the best place, and they're right now trying to rebuild it, basically. Only they, this time around, have all the luxuries, and the rest of the population will fucking suck dick, basically. But they don't give a fuck, because they've stolen so much money, and they've already built so much, acquired so much wealth, and built so much things thanks to those Western technologies and Western things, that they don't care anymore. They can live the rest of their pathetic fucking lives. They're all like 70 plus right now, so they're not gonna live long. Let's put it that way, next whatever, 10, if they're lucky, maybe 20 years. Now they just can chill, basically. And they don't care anymore in which condition they will leave the countries. They literally took the countries from USSR period, basically, and they will basically 20, 30 years later, they will reverted back to USSR, which is just despicable, because because it's despicable for me personally, because I absolutely despise these countries, both Russia and Belarus. And so for me, it's like, it's so despicable that I was born here and I now have to suffer because of decisions of my parents, really, who were stupid enough to not realize that we should exit these pieces of fucking shit countries, or at least send our kids out of these fucking places. It's so sad. Anyway, so there is that. Basically, pirating and stealing property of other companies, of international companies, it's mostly obviously about them, is now basically allowed in Belarus. They're just doing the same thing as Russia. They're doing hand in hand in so many aspects. It's just unreal, really. In worst aspects, absolutely worst aspects. It would be good if they were be advancing and innovating and creating something amazing and great, both Russia and Belarus. But no, they're just doing garbage after garbage after garbage after garbage. So there is that. Okay. Okay, basically, there was this human rights center called Vesna, or Spring, and the head of this organization, Elias Bilatsky, who is right now Nobel Prize winner, he is in jail. Not only he's in jail, but also a few other people are in jail from that human rights center. one person, Dmitry Solovyov apparently, um, not that Solovyov, that Vladimir, no man, is basically, what is the in absentia? Okay, he's been he's been tried. Yeah, he's been tried in absentia because he escaped Belarus. But just think about it. This man, right, Ales Bilatsky on your screen. If you're listening it, there's gonna be a version of it on YouTube, video version. So Ales Bilatsky, who is right now Nobel Prize winner, right? In Belarus, he's in jail. And he just got like 8 years, I think. Did he get already? Or is it still ongoing process? Process was ongoing, still ongoing, but it is from 7 to 12 years. Person who helped or who was helping basically those who need the most, whose like impact and accomplishments basically have been recognized worldwide, is in jail and will not get out of that jail before that fucking potato mustache fur will not die and all this regime will not fall. This is what's most disgusting. So yeah, that's despicable. And like 8 to 9 years, free people got independent unions, representatives of independent unions. Gennady Fedunich, 9 years. Vasily Beresnev, 9 years. Vyacheslav Oreshko, 8 years. Some of them even got, like, 2 of them got even, like, a intense regime. Like, some, like, there is apparently this, like, a common or, like, general regime, and some more strict one. So 2 of them even got strict regimes. Why? Again, extremist fucking activities, which is basically protesting and basically urging people to protest. Hate speech, essentially, or something like that. Inciting feud. Apparently, we have in our criminal codex even that kind of shit, and call to sanctions, which all of these things are correct. And so by extension, remember I was just fucking talking about this? So by extension, because I essentially I agree with all of what they were saying. Well, I don't know what they were saying exactly, but judging by those fucking by those articles of criminal codex, this is my time as well, easily. So that's why I don't want to fucking ever do any videos or anything with me in the frame. I don't ever want to say my name, my real name. I don't want to ever show my picture or anything like that until I am able to escape this fucked up place. So yeah. Another even more insane and harsher jail time got people from Gomel region, from Svetlogorsk. Oleg Molchanov, Dmitry Avich, Denis Dikun. 21, 22, and 23 years. And the court was closed court. So nobody was allowed to be there to to show this process to people, to witness it themselves, to record it. Nothing like that. What they've done, I think, at the beginning of the war, they I'm pretty sure they tried to damage or destroy either railways themselves, with which Russian forces basically were bringing their equipment closer to the border of Ukraine and trying to attack Ukraine, or damage basically the control boards and things like that. So not destroying the tracks themselves, but destroying the equipment that controls basically how the trains are going and how the lights are operating, things like that, right? And they're basically they've been given insane, imagine. And by the way, nobody died. No civilian died. No civilian trains were damaged. No one was injured really. They just basically destroyed this switch relay board basically in this in this relay box basically. And for this they've got 20 to 23 years. How fucking insane is that? By the way, I don't think they will sit 20 years. There is no way. There is absolutely no fucking way. Both Putler and fucking Peterführer, there's no fucking way they will last that long. And once these regimes will have fallen, all these people will be free, and they will be hailed as true heroes. Because they have been fucking trying to prevent Russia to transfer even more of their equipment to Ukraine at the first, in February and March, in the first days even of the invasion. These are true heroes. Unfortunately, I don't see their pictures here, but yeah. Okay, well. Anyway, and once again, the thing that I'm reading called Zerkalo, it's previously known as Tutbai, the Belarusian, one of the most famous Belarusian news portals and so on and so forth, who was completely exiled from the country, banned in the country, and now they're operating basically under a different name, under another name, Zerkalo, which means mirror in English. And this resource is also banned in Russia. That's why I have to use proxy basically to actually even read those things. So yeah, that's the thing. That's the life in true dictatorship fucking states. You get 8 to 9 years for doing your union work and actually telling your, not constituents, but your people who you represent. If you're a representative of a union, you're talking to your workers and saying to use their power to withhold their labor. This whole country, every country, all the time, and I've talked about it, about this specific example when I was talking in a previous episode about Iran and the protests in Iran. This is the only thing people can do, withhold their right to labor. Because listen, as much as the world might lead you to believe that the capitalistic system is the only great and whatnot, it still stands on the shoulders of working people. And in this case, obviously, we're not talking about capitalism, we're talking about dictatorships, absolutely atrocious authoritarian regimes. They also stand on the shoulders of simple working people. And if those people decide they will not work, you can't force them to work. I mean, you can try, but at some point you will have to have more cops, way more cops, or at least number of cops should be close to police, whatever, close to the number of people. And I mean, in that case, how the fuck are you gonna actually pay to those police and force fucking enforcer or whatever the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, that's the news from Belarus. Atrocious country. Will not recommend to be here, to be born here, to live here. No. Absolutely atrocious garbage. So, yeah. I hope everybody can escape from here, and I truly hope all these regimes will fail. Not fail, will fall. Will fall. Russia will disassemble into many, many different states. Belarus will be free finally. And yeah, I hope 2023 will give us this great news finally. To see the fall of these atrocious regimes will be such a blessing, such a relief, really, such an amazing feeling and thing to witness, at least for me personally, because I despise and hate them with all my guts, Okay. Now, I guess let's just quickly go. I was talking about the news a long time ago when international companies decided to exit Russian aviaspace and avia market, right? I was telling that, not that I was telling that, like a lot of experts were talking about this, that in like 6 months, maybe 12 months, Russia will need to replace parts, will need to repair things, and they will not have access to the components that they need. And over time, their avia park, what's the call? Like, oh my god, I'm okay. This is wow. It's been first time in quite a while that I've been talking strictly in English for like almost 1.5 hours, and my brain slightly starts to fry. Anyway, I was talking about the fact that basically, if in some times, if this thing will continue, then Far East, basically Дальний Восток, Far East region, Primorsky Krai, they're basically right now trying to cut down the flights on DHC-6 19 seater plane from Pratt and Whitney from Canada, because they will not be able to replace necessary parts, repair engines, and so on and so forth. So that's like this is just the first basically first signs of what's about to come, really. And yeah, and it's been, like, sanctions of this caliber was like, yeah, probably like 6 months right now at this point. But yeah, the point being is that, yeah, Putin basically put the whole Russia into such a giant hole that it will probably be another like 20 years if tomorrow he dies, and or he doesn't die, but like he and all his cronies and all his mafia fucking garbage people will face the tribunal in Hague or whatever, international criminal tribunal. It's gonna be another probably like, yeah, 10-20 years to get back basically to Russia, in terms of for Russia to get back to a level where they are right now. And obviously the whole world will not be sitting and waiting for 20 years. The world will be ahead already. So it's just like, yeah, it's goodbye basically. Russia lost twice as many fighter jets as they could produce, as they were able to produce. So that's pretty good, if you ask me, in terms of it's great that Russia is losing their equipment and losing more equipment than they can actually create. This is great news, because obviously at some point, like, I don't want this, but I want obviously the war to end as quickly as possible. But the thing is that if it doesn't, that at some point, because Russia cannot produce any more weapons, it will still end one way or another, like at one point in time or at another point in time, but it will end if this trend will continue. And if Russia lost like twice as many as they could produce, as they were able to produce. That's even greater. That's even more amazing, because it means that the scale of this war, in terms of like how Russia is doing it or we're doing it, will not be able to continue. And so they're gonna lose soon. Then Urals is Russian oil, basically. Right now, trades at $50 per barrel. $60 is actually the maximum limit that the European Union has introduced. So technically, that fucking price, yeah, it's lower, but it's not like $50, right? It is lower. So even like I'm assuming even European Union still can buy it. However, obviously, the lower the price, the less money will get into Russian budget, and so the worse the budget will be. So technically, it's pretty good, yeah, 40 would be a catastrophe for a budget, for Russian budget. The economists and economists and experts are saying. And oh, never mind. Okay. Oh, it did get to the It did get to $40 per barrel on 6th of January. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, that's interesting. So it's basically almost twice as low as Brent. So that's good. Okay, that's good. Which means that Russian budget will be starved of money. Which, once again, I mean, it's not going to end the war immediately. And Russian people will leave, well, like I'm saying, back into USSR. Very fucking poor, barely any products on the shelves, nothing or very little of actually Western products. Not even luxury products, but like good quality products. Sooner or later, it will end, because if we know anything from history, is that USSR basically failed because they've put all their money not into developing their own country, not into developing their people, so on and so forth, not into creating good life for people. It was because they were trying really hard to compete with like United States in terms of like ammunition, in terms of like weaponry, so on and so forth. Where is United States right now, and where is USSR? USSR doesn't exist. Russia is shithole, and United States is still like considered one of the best, or one of the better anyway, countries in the world, and definitely in terms of like economy and technologies and whatnot, it is the best country in the world now. United States, with 300 something million people, competes against China with 5 billion people, and is still ahead. So, handicap of like 5 times if we're considering like per person sort of economy sizes. And they're still the best, and they will be the best, obviously, because the technology is there not in China, in United States, and people who want to have a good life move not to China, move to United States. So just an interesting observation, right? How a country fought basically sort of a Cold War, not sort of, against USSR, it was a Cold War against one country, USSR, now fights against another country, China. One country doesn't exist anymore, USSR. Now Russia will cease to exist as well, I'm pretty sure. Or at least this is my wishful thinking, but I hope it's going to happen, that Russia just separates into 10 different, 20 different regions, whatever. And yeah, and hopefully fucking Chinese regime will end as well at some point. Speaking of Chinese regimes, they're saying, some of the officials by the way, in China, saying that Putin gone mad. He's gone fucking crazy. So basically, they're stating, in sort of this like slightly maybe obscure way, um, saying like they're basically saying to the West, or signaling to the West, hey, we don't want to deal with this cunt. We don't want, like, he's done absolutely insane, crazy thing by invading Ukraine. We don't want to deal with this. We're not going to help him. I mean, China still helps to some degree Russia to evade sanctions, to give, to get access to certain technology, not the newest technology. I don't think they've gotten like really advanced like processors or anything like that from China. I'm pretty sure they haven't. Russia, that is. So China right now is signaling basically to the West, hey, let's do business together. Let's continue to do things together. Fuck the Russia, Fuck Putin. Fuck this absolutely brain dead moron. So there's that. Okay. Interestingly, also, oh my god, Putin wants to basically, I don't know, what does he want to, like, create some taxes, basically wants to take some money out of the businesses, out of the big businesses, and put them on repairment basically, and support of basically of those regions who he himself, his army, has bombed, destroyed, obliterated, and now he wants to repair them, which is insanity. 400 billion rubles divided by like 70 or something like that. It's less than $10 billion basically, but the Russian budget is already deficit budget. There isn't, all while like just a few years or even a year ago it was a profit budget, so it's already deficit budget, and now this cunt wants to put even larger deficit. So it's like, okay, well, he's just literally going all in. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know how to get out of the situation. The only good exit of the situation, cunt, think about it, is a pistol to your head, pull the trigger, and enjoy a couple fucking circles of hell. Enjoy a couple fucking circles of hell until you fucking realize what you fucking have done. So yeah, Kremlin said that it is a diversion or misinformation, whatever. Messages that Russia will close its borders for all men. Basically, why this information exists is because a lot of people, both in like intelligence services in Ukraine and in UK, USA, sort of saying that most likely there will be a second wave of mobilization around 15 January, maybe, around basically, plus minus. And if Russia's saying that something is not going to happen, most likely it is going to happen, and this is exactly what they're preparing. So most likely we will see another wave of mobilization in Russia, which, I don't know what to say really, because right now Ukraine will get more advanced weapons, maybe even tanks, hopefully even by the time this mobilization even starts, or by the time those new mobilized forces will get to Ukraine. Hopefully by that time the Ukraine will have way more heavy weaponry, and they can just like plow through those waves of fucking orcs. Just don't go to war, Russians. I don't understand how hard it is to fucking realize, like, this is not your war. So yeah. And we're gonna end on kind of a funny news. Way back, still in December, West was not able to find $200 billion of Russian reserves. So, just to remind you, when the war started, after some time, basically $300 billion of Russian assets, of Russian central bank assets, so directly assets of like Russian state. Central Bank of Russia was keeping those money in outside of the Russia in currencies of United States, Great Britain, and Euro, for example. 300 billion, which is for Russia, it's quite a big amount of money, to be honest. And unfortunately, apparently, either they lied or like I don't quite understand how exactly that works, really, because again, if either Russia lied how much resources they actually held in Europe or in general in the West, or what happened, but apparently Atlantic Council, I don't know, I've never heard really about this about the center of geo-economy, said that basically 100 billion they have found, but 200 billion they can't really find. They don't know which Russian sort of institute, which Russian sort of organization or whatever owns them or holds them. But yeah. And I was also telling in some episode that Russia also like bought, I think for like $100 billion, like Chinese yuan, right? But unfortunately, like it's one thing to buy that currency, it's another thing to sell that currency, because to sell that currency, you actually need permission from Chinese government directly. And I don't think they've got that permission, to be honest. So basically, they got $100 billion basically stuck in China without being able to easily sort of withdraw them, essentially. So that's at least 200 billion that will not go to war, which is great. And again, if those other 200 out of first initial 300 billion that were supposed to be sort of frozen in the West will get found, will be found finally, then it will mean that at least $400 billion will not be spent on war, which is amazing. Okay, I'm gonna end it here. The first episode after quite a big break, but yeah, I'm gonna bring you more of these episodes, and yeah, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and yeah, I'll talk to you in the next one. This is Critical Discussions, criticaldiscussions.net, with all the links, all the social media, and so on and so forth. Yeah, share the video with other people, and till the next one, take care of yourselves, help Ukraine if you can. There are various, charity organizations and direct funds that I will put a couple links, basically. United 24 is one, for example, I remember from the top of my head. Yeah, let's end these regimes in Russia and in Belarus, and yeah, let's just hope that 2023 will be the year when the peace and democracy actually won against evil. Okay.